Hey, I'm David Kelso, your neighborly podcast nerd with the Appleton Podcast Co-op, and welcome to the Podcast Fast Class. Lesson number 3, we talked about how you come up with those episode ideas on a regular basis. Lesson number 4, today we're going to talk about structuring the individual shows. So this is the point where you really get to design how your show is going to be presented to people. Some call it format, structure, framing, anchoring. There's tons of different ways to call it, but organizing your show kind of happens naturally. It's all a part of storytelling, and it really helps to set the listener's expectations for the long haul. Now, that doesn't mean you can't change anything, but having some consistent points allows you to have some freedom in other places. So here are what we'll see as some typical segments that you could find in a show. Sort of the basic rundown of what you see in pretty much every podcast out there right now. Before we continue, I'm just going to check my levels quick. Okay, we are good to go. And perfect. Okay, so the first one that we have is an ad. So these can either be dynamically inserted, which means that they are inserted later in the stream. They're not baked in or read by the host necessarily. It really depends on your platform that you're using. Captivate, I know, and Red Circle are doing them. Or Captivate's coming soon. Red Circle's doing it now. Then you have a baked in one, which means it's just caked right into the show, and you can't really replace it. It's a pain in the butt to do it in the future. Typically, you see ads, and especially in a 40-minute show, you see them in a pre, middle, and post in those 3 places. But you could have no ads at all, maybe if you're doing a Patreon-run show, one that's really sort of run by your audience. Or you could have more if you're like that. Some people have really long ads in their shows, and some people have really short ads. It really depends on your audience. Next, what you see is the hook. This is really like that soundbite, that intriguing question that hooks people in to listen to the rest of the episode. Why are they going to spend the next hour, the next 45 minutes of their time listening to your show? It's like a trailer for the rest of the episode. Next, you have the intro. I imagine this as like the title sequence of your favorite TV show. It's a point where you can have a little fun, set the tone for what they're about to hear. In the podcast realm, I think it's really important to have like a quick sentence that sums up what your show's about and how often you post it. So for the APC Presents, I say at the very front, I'm David Kelso, and you're listening to APC Presents, the show where I interview independent podcasters from Northeast Wisconsin. Now, I don't say how often it posts because I'm only doing a one-time series. But if you're doing a show every single week or even daily, let people know that, because maybe they just listen to your show once online and never come back to it, or think, oh, maybe this is just a one-off. It's your opportunity to be able to tell people that it's happening on a regular basis. Next, you have your content. This is the point where you can have your most creativity, the most fun. It's the reason that people are actually listening to your show. So you can have more segments within your content, sort of like what you would find in a radio station or a talk radio show or YouTube channel, where they have different segments of their show to sort of break it up, give a little bit more fun and flair to it. That's up to you. It's your show. Do whatever you want. So at the end of that, then you have your plugs and your call to action. This is really your moment. You just delivered some awesome content, some awesome entertainment, some awesome inspiration, whatever it may be. Now is your chance to sort of connect them to other places that they can engage with you, to sort of build that repertoire, to earn their trust. So you can bring them into your Patreon, whatever it is, sell stuff if you want to monetize, or just really engage with having a fun community. Maybe that's why you want a podcast, just because you want to talk to people about what you love. Also, a way that you can do that with the plugs. So then this may not be for every show, but having credits, if you're working with the team, or you have maybe some music that requires you to do attribution, this is the place that you usually do that. And to encourage people to listen to those, we have what's a bonus, is what I'm going to call it. I don't know if there's an official term for it or not, but I put a blooper at the end of every APC Presents episode. You'll find like a snippet a prize, maybe a showcase for next week's episode if you edit ahead of time. I did not this week, and I am struggling for it. But anyways, it's that reason to give people to maybe actually listen to the credits so they don't skip through them or whatever. But I imagine all of these as sort of like road signs along the way to making the show that you actually want to create. So a big thing to remember, though, while you're putting all this together is that podcast playback is on demand. People are clicking and choosing to click on your episode when they do. So, and it can also be paused, sped up, scrubbed, skipped, and downloaded by listeners. So let's talk about a little bit in the comments below how you planning to structure your show. What kind of format do you want to be? Is it going to be an interview across the table with just two people? Is it going to be a full chat cast? Or are you just going to dive right into that every time? Or are you going to do some pre-production? It really depends. Leave your comments down below with your ideas, and don't forget that you can win some free gear if you do actually end up making a podcast while this season is going on. The season is going to end December 1st, I think the first week in December, so make sure you get everything rolling by then. We should have we have another 6 episodes of actually learning, and then the last half of the season, the series is just going to be sort of some check-ins, some accountabilities to make sure you're on track to creating your show. So today as well, I just had wearing my Packers, got my mustache, talked with Matt Freilich of Pack A Day Podcast. We had a wonderful conversation. He offered some great marketing tips as well for your podcast. So head over to APC Presents or AppletonPodcast.com to listen to that interview with Matt Freilich. Really appreciate you all being here. Make sure you comment down below. I can't wait to continue the discussion.